I'm Bridget Cole, 35, living a completely self-made life as a marketing manager in Lincoln, Nebraska. That day, a tense morning meeting was going on, and the mobile phone on the table suddenly shook, interrupting my thoughts. The screen lights up and it's a text from my sister. Transfer me $2,800 for prom. I froze instantly, and my teeth clenched. $2,800 for a dress and a night of partying? I typed back, earn it yourself. A few minutes later, my parents' reply came, slapping me in the face like a slap in the face. Either give money or stop recognizing our family. My heart sped up. Over the years, I've been sending them money thinking it was spent on emergencies or necessary expenses. But this time, it turned out to be force me to pay for my sister to hold a graduation party, or else I would be cut off. The anger was surging in my chest, mixed with a sharper emotion, a painful recognition. Maybe they took my efforts for granted for a long time, until I didn't want to admit it. That night, I paced the room for hours, recalling their words over and over again, and finally came to a decision. I hung my finger over the top of the screen and pressed cancel. Cancel everything. At 8:30 the next morning, my world was completely turned upside down. Soon after, I discovered a shocking truth that you would never believe. If you have faced this kind of family pressure, please share your experience in the comment section. I'm curious to know how you're coping, and please stay tuned as more real stories like mine are coming. To understand why my sister's text messages shocked me so much, you need to know my family first. My life has no support from anyone, and I have not taken any shortcuts. From childhood to adulthood, I understood very early that hard work was my only way out. But my parents never thought so. Mother and father devoted all their efforts to their sister. She was the apple of their eye, the youngest child in the family. I was 17 when she was born and had long since learned to be self-reliant. While working part-time, I watched them dote on her and satisfy all her whim. The mother was always the one who made the decision, while the father silently supported her, and the two lived beyond their means. They would buy their sister designer clothes, throw lavish birthday parties, and even fund weekend trips for her and her friends, despite their precarious financial situation. Their house on the outskirts of Lincoln is a bottomless pit, always in need of all kinds of repairs they can't afford. At the same time, I was working hard in college, working 2 jobs, determined to stand on my own feet. When I was 25 years old, I got my first marketing job. In those years, I hardly had a complete weekend. It was common for me to revise the plan in the company late at night. In order to win a customer, I only slept 4 hours a day for a week. Even when I had a fever, I was forced to attend the proposal meeting. This comfortable life was all my blood and sweat. At the age of 30, I had already started planning marketing campaigns for large clients, living comfortably, living alone, and without any ties. But in the eyes of my parents, I became their economic pillar. 4 years ago, I opened a joint family account to help them pay their bills, utilities, groceries, and other basic expenses. I thought I was doing the right thing to help ease their burden. I was busy with work and didn't monitor the account very carefully, thinking that they would use the money responsibly. But my sister, she's been used to getting something for nothing since she was a child. At the age of 18, she was addicted to luxury. A $500 dress, a $500 dress, a $200 dinner, everything. The parents let this go, even at the expense of running out of savings to make her happy. Only now do I realize the seriousness of the matter. I always felt that I was an outsider, someone who had to constantly prove himself, while my sister always got everything without any effort. Mother always said, "She is still small, let her enjoy life." The father just nodded. I've been working hard on my career, and I'll send them when they ask for money. But the joint account I opened was my biggest mistake. I trusted them thinking they needed the money to make ends meet. In retrospect, there are already clues. My sister's new jewelry, my mother's vague explanation of unexpected expenses. I should have doubted that. All my life, I have always been the responsible person, the one who helped them clean up their mess. But in the end, when I refused their request, they accused me in turn. As a child, whenever I asked them for help, I could always hear my mother's shrill, dismissive voice. "Do it yourself, Bridget." But for their sister, they can immediately put down everything at hand. I remember her 10th birthday. They had a princess-themed party for $2,000, and I had to work weekends to pay for textbooks. What makes me even more chilling is that once I was bedridden with a bad cold and wanted my mother to help me buy a box of cold medicine, but she said impatiently, "I'm going to take my sister to buy a new toy." While my sister only had a slight cough, they nervously took her to see a private doctor and asked for leave to stay at home. Her father once said, "She's our second chance to make up for our regrets." This sentence is very hurtful, but I endured it and continued to work hard to move forward. My sister's demands are getting more and more excessive year by year. New mobile phones, concert tickets, shopping sprees. Parents never hesitated, even if their bank accounts were already in the red. I thought I was helping them by opening that joint account, but I was blind to their real use. Over the years, I've tried to prove that I don't need them and build a life that I'm proud. But as for her sister, she never had to do anything. Parents at all costs to ensure that she can get something for nothing, but they become the eyes of the buyer for granted. I was working that day when my phone suddenly kept vibrating. My sister's text message appeared on the screen. "I need 2800 4th prom, Northern Tome." I was burning with anger. 2800 4th prom, Northern Tome. I was burning with anger. 2800, just for a high school dance, for a once-worn dress, and a limousine to show off. My fingers trembled with anger, and I typed back, "No way. Get a job and earn it yourself." I pressed the send button, thinking she would get angry and complain, maybe send a bunch of coquettish replies. Unexpectedly, a few seconds later, the phone called. Her voice was shrill and full of a sense of rightful superiority. "Bridget, you are so selfish. Isn't it just a graduation party? Why can't you help me?" I clenched my phone and forced myself to stay calm. "You're 18, I said. A lot of kids do part-time jobs to earn money for prom, so try it." She scoffed, her tone full of malice. "You don't understand. This is what I deserve." Before I could respond, she hung up the phone, leaving me staring at the blank screen and tumbling in my stomach. Deserved? Since when is she entitled to my money? I tried to concentrate on my work, but my mind kept replaying her words. Over the years, I have tried my best to prove that I can stand on my own feet, while she has no worries about food and clothing and gets something for nothing. This kind of injustice makes me feel like a knife, and it also reminds me that my parents chose her countless times and gave up on me. I remember when I was 16, I begged them to give me 50 to go on a school trip, and memo snapped. "Weedn't thavi anemone. Butididn't take long for my sister Tajet 50 to go on a school trip, and memo ther snapped. Weedn't thavi anemone. Butididn't take long for my sister Tajet 200 to buy concert tickets." By noon, I heard her voice again. This time it was a voice message she accidentally sent. "Bridget's gone too far, Mom and Dad," she complained. "You make her pay." I froze instantly, as if I could see her pacing up and down the suburban living room, playing the victim role as always. A few minutes later, my mother's text message came, like a sharp blade stabbing me. "Pay for your sister's graduation party, or stop claiming to be a member of this family." The father's message followed, brief and icy. "Bridget, do the right thing." I read the message over and over, my fingers trembling. The right thing? Over the years, I've given them thousands of dollars. 1,000 to help them pay their mortgage, 1,000 to help them pay their mortgage, 2,000 for emergencies, and countless small payments to help them pay their bills. And now they're threatening to cut me off because of a prom dress. My chest was tight, and anger mingled with feelings of betrayal. It's not just about the prom. There must be something wrong. I can vaguely feel it. I called my sister back, hoping to find out. "Why is this so important?" I asked, trying to keep my voice as steady as possible, despite the anger churning in my chest. "Ask your parents," she retorted. "They said you would pay, which is my right." Rights? I almost had to laugh at this ridiculous statement. "You have no right to take my money," I said. "Grow up," she screamed. "You've ruined everything." Then hung up the phone again. I sat there, my heart racing, recalling every call, every time my mother asked for money. Excuses. Bridget, we're having a hard time. Her voice was always so rapid, as if it had been rehearsed long ago. My father seldom called, but every time he called, he ended up with the same words. Can you help us? I never doubted them. At that time, I was busy with my work and trusted my family too much. In the afternoon, I was pacing up and down in the office, with unprocessed customer proposals piled on the table, and there were several missed work calls in my cell phone. Days of overtime had exhausted me physically and mentally, and the farce of my sister and parents made me even more irritable. My sister's sense of superiority was not formed overnight, but this time the request was extremely excessive, almost premeditated. I opened the mobile banking app and flipped through the records of transfers to that family's joint account over the years, thousands of dollars in transfers, never having been questioned. $1,500 here, $800 there, and each time they promised it was for necessary expenses. My mother's excuses echoed in my ears. The car broke down, or money is tight this month. I used to believe that I was helping them, but now their threat sounds like a long rehearsed script. I sent a text message to my mother. Is a prom worth breaking up with me? No reply. I tried to contact my father again. Dad, explain what is going on. Still silence. Their refusal to respond will only make my doubts more and more serious. I leaned back in my chair, staring at my phone, and the heaviness of their words gradually hit me. They want more than money. They are bullying me and using family as a weapon to threaten me. I thought of the joint account, the account I opened to help them. I haven't looked at it in years and have been busy with various deadlines and meetings. What exactly did they do with the money? It is no coincidence that my sister's unreasonable and parents' immediate threats. Shortly after my parents sent me a text message, I received an unusual bank notice. It was late Tuesday afternoon, and an email popped up in my inbox from the bank about our joint family account. The subject of the email was impressively written, large transaction alert. My heart sank, and I immediately opened the email. The emails show that there was a 5,000 transfer thought morning the twas transfer read without my approval. Istered at the screen. My pulse getting faster and faster. 5,000 transfer thought morning the twas transfer read without my approval. Istered at the screen. My pulse getting faster and faster. 5,000. Where did it go? I opened this account to help them pay their bills, not to fund these mysterious withdrawals. Threats flashed through my mind from my parents, who insisted that I pay for my sister's prom. This is by no means a coincidence. I called my sister immediately, hoping to get some explanation. What happened to the family joint account? I asked, my voice as firm as possible. Her response was evasive and sharp. I don't know, ask my parents. She said impatiently, why are you always so suspicious? I further asked, there's $5,000 missing. Do you know anything? She sneered, contemptuous and disdainful. You are making a mountain out of a molehill. It may not be a big deal. Then she hung up the phone, leaving me furious. Her refusal to answer strengthened my suspicion that she was not only avoiding, she was clearly hiding something. I can't sit still. I need answers, and I know that I can no longer trust my family to tell me the truth. That's when I thought of Ellen Ward, my friend and lawyer in the office next door to my marketing firm. I sent her a text. Can we talk? It's urgent. She replied a few minutes later, offering us to meet in her office that evening. At 6 p.m., I sat across from Ellen, whose desk was full of legal documents. I told her about the bank's alarm, my sister's avoidance, and my parents' threats. There must be something wrong with that family joint account, I said, my voice full of frustration and anger. I want to know what they did with the money. Ellen nodded, her expression calm but focused. Let's get the account records first, she said, opening her laptop and logging into the bank's portal with the information I provided, her fingers operating quickly. In a few minutes, she found a record of transactions I hadn't seen in years. There were a lot of large withdrawals, she said, frowning, some going to creditors and some going to retail accounts. I leaned forward, my stomach churning. Creditor? Retail accounts? What kind of retail account? I asked. Ellen scrolls the screen. It's all high-end stores, boutiques, jewelry stores, even a travel agency. My brain is racing, and it's not for utilities or groceries at all. Ellen continued to dig deeper and pulled up bills for the past year. It looks like your parents have been using this account to pay off debt, she said. Credit card bills, car loans, and even a second mortgage that they never mentioned. A strong sense of betrayal swept through me. Debt? They never mentioned the second mortgage. I think of their calls, always saying need a little help to cover unexpected expenses. I didn't hesitate to send the money, thinking I was helping them out. But now I understand the truth. They've been embezzling money from this account to support their living beyond their means. Ellen then pointed to another set of transaction records. These amounts are small, but they're frequent, she said. They are all payments to clothing stores, restaurants, and even a prom planning company. Prom planning company? The picture of my sister asking for $2,800 came to my mind instantly. They've been funding her profligacy, I said, my voice barely audible. Ellen nodded. It looks like your parents have been using your money to pay off their debts while meeting your sister's every need. I leaned back in my chair, too shocked to speak. For so many years, I thought I was funding their necessary expenses, but in the end I became an ATM for their lies. I left Ellen's office with a heavy heart. My parents aren't just pushing me to pay for prom. They've been hiding a long-term deception. I need more proof, but one thing is clear to me. I can't let this go on any longer. The next day, I went to Ellen's office again. The room was dimly lit, and her desk was piled with papers, but Ellen's gaze was still sharp. She pushed a stack of papers in front of me with a serious expression. These are bank records, she said. You may not like the result. I flipped through the first page, and there was a crunch in my stomach. For more than 4 years, $100,000 was withdrawn from that joint family account my money, and it was quietly appropriated. A strong sense of betrayal hurt me. I used to trust them, thinking I was helping them out, but in the end, they kept draining my savings. Ellen pointed to the transaction log. Your parents made dozens of large transfers, she said, turning the page. Some to credit card companies, some to repay car loans, and even a second mortgage they never mentioned. My throat tightened. Second mortgage? They keep saying the mortgage on the house is almost paid off. Then she showed me another section, smaller but frequent withdrawals paid to boutiques, jewelry stores, and a travel agency that arranged trips for my sister. And prom expenses, Ellen added, circling a $3,000 payment to a high minus and event planning company. The reason why my sister sked for $3,000 payment to a high minus and event planning company. The reason why my sister sked for $2,800 became clear in an instant. She was brought up with the idea that my money was her money. I leaned back in my chair, my thoughts confused. Every phone call from my mother, every plea to need a little help, flashed through my mind. I sent thousands of dollars, thinking it was for necessities, groceries, utilities, subsistence expenses. But now I see the truth. They used me to pay off their debts and finance their sister's luxurious life. How could they do such a thing? I whispered, more like talking to myself than asking Ellen. She shook her head. When people are desperate, they can find excuses for themselves. Her words were harsh, but they were true. I know what I have to do. The next morning, Wednesday, I called the bank and asked to close that family joint account. The whole process took only 10 minutes, but each step was like cutting off a chain. I've tied myself to their problems all these years, and right now, I've had enough. After the account was frozen, I wrote a short and cold email to my parents and sister. The family joint account is closed. I know where that $100,000 is going. There will be no more money. I pressed the send key, my fingers steady, but my chest was incredibly heavy. It's not just about money, it's about trust, and they've already shattered that trust. Within a few hours, my phone exploded. My sister was the first to call, and her voice was full of panic and anger. You can't do this, she screamed. We need that account. I remained calm, though my pulse was racing. Need? To buy more designer dresses? I asked. She faltered for a long time, then screamed, You're ruining the family. Then hung up the phone. My mother's text message followed with a tirade against me. How dare you accuse us? We need that money to survive. Survive on luxury trips and prom planners? The father's message was shorter, but equally desperate. Bridget, think about what you've done to us. I did not reply. Their excuses sound weak. I called Ellen and told her the latest. They're panicking, I said, with a mixture of anger and relief in my voice. She's not surprised. They're scared because their financial support is gone, she says. You did the right thing. I'm not so sure. Closing my account made me feel free, but it was also like losing the family I had worked so hard to hold together for years. Their lies changed everything, and I'm not sure what the future holds. A week later, I drove to my parents' home in suburban Lincoln. My hands were clasping the steering wheel, and beside me was a folder full of bank documents. What I am about to do makes me feel very heavy. I spent days preparing, recalling Ellen's discovery that over 4 years, 100,000 had been diverted from the family joint account, and that was just the tip-off the iceberg. Minus 100,000 had been diverted from the family joint account, and that was just the tip-off the iceberg. Minus 500,000 in debt to my parents. Today, I want to face them and put all the truth in the sun. No more lies. I walked into their living room, and there was tension in the air. Mother sat on the sofa, her eyes already full of hostility. The father stood by the window, his arms crossed, his expression elusive. My sister leaned listlessly in her armchair, staring at her phone, deliberately avoiding my gaze. I wasted no time and came straight to the point. I know everything, I said, throwing the folder on the coffee table. The account I opened to help you embezzled. 100,000, Andiao 100,000, Andiao 500,000 in debt. I spread out all the documents, bank statements, transaction records, all the evidence that they were spending money, credit card repayment records, car loan bills, a second mortgage that was concealed, and, what's more, thousands of dollars were used to pay for my sister's designer clothes and travel expenses. The mother's face turned pale, and her eyes burst out with vicious anger. She slapped the table and stood up. You white-eyed wolf! How dare you secretly check our accounts? Her voice was sharp as nails scratching the glass, and she was shaking all over. We are a family. Why are you doing this to us? A wave of anger surged into my heart. A family? I gave them everything, but they used me like this. You lied to me. I clenched my fists, my knuckles were white, and my voice was hoarse with suppressed anger. You said the money was used to pay bills and make ends meet, but in fact, you used my hard-earned money to buy her a famous brand, hold a party, and secretly took out a second mortgage. I pointed to my sister. She finally looked up in panic, but did not dare to look at me. My father also stepped forward, his face livid, pointing to my nose and shouting, What's wrong with us raising you so big and letting you help the family? If your wings are hard, you won't recognize anyone. The more the debt accumulates, you should have carried it for us. I looked at him in shock, and the grievances and anger that had accumulated for many years broke out instantly. Should I help you? Over the years, I have been getting up early and working hard, paying your mortgage, paying utilities, and subsidizing thousands of dollars at every turn. I couldn't bear to buy a brand-name bag myself, but you used it as an ATM. I grabbed the bank records on the table and threw them in front of them. But what about you? Spend my money on luxuries and useless pleasures, and even owe me a debt behind my back. The mother suddenly rushed over to rob the documents and cried out, You are too selfish. Without us, would you be where you are today? Is this how you repay us? We're doing this for her, for your sister's future. I pushed her away, and she staggered on the sofa, crying hysterically. I looked at my sister, expecting her to be fair, but she suddenly jumped up and pointed at me and screamed, It's all you. If you hadn't given money, your parents wouldn't have become like this. You are a cold-blooded liar. You used to pretend to give us money. Her words like a knife, hard on my heart. This kind of reverse black and white accusation is more hurtful than the parents' abuse. Not only was she an accomplice, she took my efforts for granted. His father's anger was even greater. He kicked the coffee table and the cup fell to the ground and broke into pieces. You can't just abandon us like this." His eyes were red, like an out-of-control beast. "We are your family. You owe us. You must get the money out today, otherwise don't think of the door." Owe them? This brazen statement made me furious. "I don't owe you anything," I roared, my voice trembling with excitement. "I closed my account and won't give you any more money. Take care of your own troubles." Mother clutching her chest, crying and cursing. "You will be punished. You unfilial girl. We raised you for nothing." My sister was still echoing, her mouth full of vicious curses, saying that I was ungrateful and cold-blooded. I looked straight at their twisted faces and never flinched. "You abandoned me first," I said. "All these years, you have only treated me as a cash cow, used my trust, squandered my savings, and never regarded me as family." There was a complete explosion in the room. The mother cried and patted her thighs and cursed. The father was so angry that he paced back and forth in the living room, shouting, "Buy one hang," and "ungrateful," while the sister stood aside, inserting a few vicious words from time to time. Their voices mingled like a pack of mad dogs barking. I looked at the three people I was closest to, only feel very strange and disgusting. I put away all the papers, my hands shaking with anger and relief. "I've had enough," I said, turning to the door. They immediately gathered around to stop me. My father even reached out to pull my arm. I shook him off and said coldly, "Don't touch me." Their curses and accusations followed behind me, full of anger and despair, but I did not turn back. I have given them countless opportunities to explain, but they will only respond to me with accusations and abuse. At this moment, I completely cut off all ties with them. This is the end of their control over me. After leaving their house, I went back to my own place and made my final decision. The weight of my family's betrayal still haunts me, but I know I have to do it. I've closed that joint account, but it's not enough. I turned on my cell phone, hacked my parents' phone numbers, and put all their mail in the spam box. Then there is my sister's number. Every click is like cutting off a thread that I have maintained for many years. It was painful, but it also gave me a calming power. I don't want to be their economic crutch anymore. As the months went by, I heard from a distant cousin about them. The parents had filed for bankruptcy. $30,000 in debt, credit card bills, loans, and that concealed second mortgage eventually crushed them. Their house in the suburbs of Lincoln, the one they've been claiming to pay off their loans, is gone too. It was as if I could imagine the movers moving their furniture out, my mother crying and my father standing by in a daze. My heart has a tingle, but more is numb. They made it all themselves, and they used my money to delay the inevitable. I gave them a chance, but they destroyed it with their own hands. The sister also received her own retribution. Without her parents' support, she had to grow up quickly. Cousin said she got a part-time job at a clothing store, folding shirts and checking out customers every day. I imagined her standing behind the counter, forced to earn her own money instead of asking me for it as before. The girl who once thought she deserved her $2,800 prom dress has finally learned to be self-reliant. I did not feel the joy of victory, only a bitter relief. Maybe one day she will understand what I tried to teach her. As for me, I found a new kind of peace. Those endless phone calls, those moral kidnappings, those unreasonable demands are gone. I focus on my life, career, and savings. I began to receive psychological treatment to sort out the manipulation I had suffered over the years and rebuild my self-confidence that had been eroded a little bit by my family. Setting boundaries is not easy, and it means giving up hope that they will change, giving up the illusion that they will treat me like family rather than a cash machine. But it also means freedom. I learned to say no, to protect my future, to stop letting their chaos define my life. Looking back, this experience taught me a vital truth. Family does not mean obligation, and love should not be attached to any strings. All these years I thought I had to save them, thinking their problems were my problems. I was wrong. Setting boundaries, taking control of my finances, and staying out of toxic relationships was the way to save me. If you are in a similar predicament, remember that you are not obligated to sacrifice your own safety for the sake of others. First, protect yourself. This is not selfish. This is the way to survive. Thank you to everyone who listened to my story. This road is very difficult, but sharing it makes me feel much better. I'd love to hear about your experience. Have you ever been forced to set boundaries with your family? Please leave a message in the comment area, and we will communicate together. If this story resonates with you, please click the subscribe button and join me in anticipation of more true stories. Your support means a lot to me.